All right. I hope I'm connected. Well, I hope I'm connected. Okay, I guess we are good. Yeah, hi. Welcome to week 3. I think I have something for you this week that you're going to find fun and interesting to do. Our assignment, which runs 2 weeks, is to create a user interface for a kiosk. And I did one, which I'm going to show you my final versions. I got 2 versions of them that I want to show you. I'm just going to show them tonight. I'm going to show you tonight and tomorrow night how I built the elements for the kiosk, but I'm not going to show you how to put the whole thing together and do all the linking and stuff until next week. That's next week's work. This week, what we're going to do is we're going to deal with creating the elements for it. So it's a 2-part assignment and assessment. And yeah, so this week, that's what we're going to cover. So before I do that, I just wanted to briefly talk a little bit about the discussion, just to make sure that you have a good idea of what the criteria for the discussion is this week. So let me quickly go through this to begin. So what we're basically going to be doing is defining information design and how it applies to the role of a graphic designer or a web designer. There are a variety of names for careers, education, and job titles within the design industry. Some of them are graphic designers, graphic arts or artists, communication art or artists, visual communication specialists, information designers, UX designers, UI design, web design, and there are more. The line between many of these careers and tasks overlap. So very often, a general purpose graphic designer could be doing a number of these different things, and it's not uncommon for that to happen. So that's why it's a good idea as a graphic designer. The more you know, the more valuable you become as an asset to somebody who's going to hire you. So no matter what your job or title is or will be, your job is basically about communicating some type of information. And that's true. A graphic designer does just that. They're working on projects that have to do with specific information. The goal of all these types of designers is to do that effectively, clearly, and in a way that is enjoyable for the recipient audience or your viewer. Now, part of the thing that you do when you're working on these projects is you interact with people who are known as stakeholders. These are people who are within a company that have something of value to do with your particular project. There are people maybe who will utilize them, or people who market or sell products that you are doing your project for. So you'll be working with them, they will be helping you, and everybody's working together to come up with this effective, clear, and enjoyable way of promoting the product or service. So what is information? Some definitions of information are the communication or reception of knowledge or intelligence, obviously. Knowledge obtained from investigation, study, or instruction. In the case of most designers, basically what we're doing is when we say study, I'd say more along the line of investigation or research is primarily what graphic designers do. Intelligence and news, well, it depends on the type of product or service that you're marketing. Facts, data, again, depending upon the type of product or service or project you're working on. Facts provided or learned about something or someone. As humans, we are naturally curious and interested in learning and acquiring information. Good information, that's, the most important thing. Nothing's more annoying is to find out that you're studying something or learning something and the information's inaccurate. So again, and it's part of the job of the designer to make sure that whatever information that they're supplying, in any way they're doing it, is accurate. We are currently in what is called the information age. The start of the information age is connected to the digital revolution and the birth of the World Wide Web. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't probably have to tell you that the World Wide Web is an amazing thing. And I mean, as graphic designers, if we're working on any kind of a project and we need some kind of a visual stimulus, I mean, it's just amazingly easy to go do a Google. And I pick on Google. I know that there are many other search engines available, but I just pick on Google because it's the one everybody knows off the top of their head. It's incredibly easy to go in and do Google searches and immediately come up with visual things that are going to help you to get where you need to go. Now, I'm not suggesting that you necessarily directly go in and copy things that you get off the web. However, it's possible for you to base artwork that you do on something from the web. And in the projects that we're creating, which are projects, they're school projects, there's a certain amount of flexibility because this is not something that we're selling. The only person that you're selling it to is me, your instructor, for a grade. And I'm flexible as far as, you know, you showing me a picture. I have the proper perspective that this is an assignment. I understand completely what it is. But there are also sources where you can go and you can find free artwork as well if you really want to be a stickler about it. But again, I'm not that kind of a stickler. My goal here is to get you thinking and to get you motivated to go out and do something unusual and different. And if it involves, you know, utilizing some artwork that you bring in and modify from the web, that's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, that's what a lot of people do. Just don't use it directly as you get it. Always modify whatever you use, or use it as a starting off point to create something entirely new yourself. So what is design? Along with having communications and information in common, all of the titles listed are considered design careers. What does it mean to be a designer? Simply stated, it's someone who designs. So what is design? Merriam-Webster defines design as follows: to create, fashion, execute, or construct something according to a plan, to conceive and plan in the mind, to have as a purpose, to devise for a specific function or end. So what this all comes down to, I guess the way that I can put it that would make sense to you, is graphic design is essentially work for hire. Because what's happening is somebody's coming to you with something that they need specifically, and they pay you to do it. Now, you know, you could say, well, you know, a person could do a sculpture, and, you know, that could potentially be a commission. That's a commission. Okay, and well, what's the difference between a commission and a graphic design piece? I think probably the intent. I doubt very much that if you create a piece of sculpture for somebody, that its purpose is to sell a product or a service. However, I'm not going to sit and say it hasn't happened before. It has in the past happened. So it's kind of a funny thing. But the bottom line is, when you're working as a graphic designer, you have a very specific product or service in mind, and you have a particular goal, you have a target audience, and you have a media type or different types of media that you will be employing. All of these things come together to create what essentially is considered graphic design. So as graphic designers, that is what we do. Some synonyms listed are arrangement, blueprint, plan, game plan, ground plan, master plan, project, program, roadmap, scheme, strategy, and system. All of these descriptions imply something that is being purposely planned. That is why the planning part of the design process is invaluable. Without a plan and a purpose, it's technically not design. So what is user experience? User experience is a popular acronym. You have probably heard it mentioned in design circles or seen it used by employers when looking for experience or qualifications. User experience is often used in conjunction with web and app design, but it is a concept that reaches different types of design. Basically, it refers to how the end user of your design and the information that is delivered by the designer. User experience is a necessary part of all design works and ensures a human-centered approach. Okay, so here's our prompt. Now we're getting into the very specifics of our discussion for the week. In this class, students from a few different design programs converge, as it is required class for both associates and bachelor level graphic arts students, as well as those majoring in information design and web design. We have a unique opportunity to explore and share different angles of information design. What you are to do is research 3 different professional areas of design. In this discussion, share your specific emphasis and explore the following questions. Now, what they're talking about, your emphasis, what is your emphasis? What is your particular area of study? How is information design utilized in the different fields mentioned, in the different design fields mentioned? So how do you believe, or how will you, from a research standpoint, determine what information design or how information design is utilized in different fields? What different roles do graphic designers, information designers, and web designers play in distributing information? So the question is, each one of these 3 people, whether you're a graphic designer, an information designer, and a web designer, you all are in the business of distributing information. So what are the different roles? How do you do that? How does that apply? That's what you're to explore. How can the human-centered approach to design be applied to your specific field? So what you need to determine here or discuss is how can you explain the use of human-centered approach in whatever it is that you're going to be developing, your area of study. How can other design fields such as gaming, architecture, fashion, interiors, etc., utilize the human-centered approach to design? Again, this would be something I would look up and do some research on. Okay, so at any rate, that's the technical questions that you need to answer for our discussion this week. The readings include articles with descriptions of graphic design, information design, and web design. So you could probably start by looking at them. Again, I don't know how much you know specifically about them, but you certainly can spend a few moments going in and reading a little bit about them. It would certainly help you, because I didn't get into depth on any of this stuff here right now. I'm just giving you a high-level overview of it all. So you can use these to start your research and exploration, but there's a lot more information on these topics available on the web, which goes back to my basic premise that the web is an amazing thing that you can use to find all sorts of stuff. As an instructor, every time I get a new class that I have to teach, the first thing I do is I go in and I understand what the assignments are, and then I, from a creative standpoint, start exploring the web to see what kind of research I can come up with to help me fulfill my part, which is essentially to do the same project that you're going to do. One of the things that I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to show you my version of the project that you're going to be working on this week and next week. So you have to understand something. On a certain level, I'm just as much of a student as you are, because I have to, they don't supply me with a finished piece. The school doesn't supply me with a finished piece. It's my responsibility to take the course and do the work just as though you are doing the work. And that's something you ought to think about, because all of us instructors do that as well. So we're just as much of a student. I mean, whenever I take one of these courses, and if it's a different course, you know, I'm learning new things, or I'm exploring new things and doing things that, you know, are in context of this particular course. I'm taking the course along with you. It's important that you realize this, okay? So the stuff that I try to show you is how I interpret the information that I'm given and come up with a solution. Now, do I want you to copy my solution? No, I'm not looking for you to copy my solution. I'm trying to help you understand what the solution is, and I'm trying to give you some ideas of the particular application that you're working with in terms of how you can maybe learn something new from the course? How can you learn something new about the actual programs that we're working with from the course? So that's basically where I am with this. For your citation, you might use articles that explain the different design careers. I mean, you know what to do. Go find yourself something that is very relevant to your topic. Find yourself one nice block of copy that talks about some relevant part of whatever you're writing and put it in as a citation. Truth is, you only need like one. 1 and 2 is fine. 1 is acceptable as long as you have 1 in there. I'm not a fussy guy, just as long as you got it. Your initial and reply posts should work to develop a group understanding of the topic and challenge each other, build on each other. This is part of the problem I have with these discussions, and a lot of students, they don't build on each other. They don't challenge each other. And a lot of times people will wait till the very last minute to put in a reply. And I mean, you need to think about that. I know you got to get it done and everything, but you know, technically you're not really contributing to the overall understanding of the topic by waiting until 8 hours or 16 hours before the deadline and plopping in a reply. Who really has the time to go in there and reply to you? This is some of the things that irk me a little bit. And I mention it because I see it every mod. I see students do the same thing. Now, do I knock points off for this? No, I really don't, because I'm not terribly difficult to deal with, but I do find it very bothersome that students continue to do this. It is not very professional. And while you can get away with certain things maybe here with me, in reality, when you get into the real world, you're going to find things are going to be a lot stricter, and you better start preparing yourself for that, because again, there's a lot of people out there. And there's a lot of work out there, but there are a lot of people out there that are vying for the jobs that you're looking for. And the better you are, and the more organized you are, and the more, you know, gung-ho you are, the more likely you are to get that job. And if you get that job, you better work hard at it, because it could go away real quick, and then you could find yourself, you know, lacking. So I say all this because it's the truth, okay? All right, so the reply requirements: respect the due date, and the participation requirements: main post 150 words with 1 citation and reference, and 2, guys, listen, 2 follow-up posts, 50 words at least. Try to say something. Don't just say, oh, you know, I like what you did. Very interesting. Thank you very much. I was thinking the exact same thing. You know, try to say something about the topic that you've just read. Try to prove in some way, your little post, your response, try to prove that you actually read and understood what they were doing, and that you're trying to share a thought with somebody else. And also remember, you know, you're trying to stimulate a conversation. So always try to put in, you know, what do you think? Or I'd like to know what you think, or what are your thoughts, or something. I do it all the time. If you read my replies, almost every single one of them has something like that at the end of it. And I don't do that just to be stupid. I do it because I'm hoping that somebody is going to reply to me. That's the whole point of doing this kind of stuff. So, and I'm saying these things to you because you're only in 240, DES 240. You still have a bunch of classes to go yet. And my feeling is that if I make impressions on you of some of the things that I think you should be doing, like for instance, you know, making sure that you post your responses early in the week. Make sure that you use more than 50 words and that you say something relevant to the conversation. Make sure that you do something like, you know, include a statement as to, you know, what do you think, or, you know, I'd like to know what your opinion is, so that you can move the discussion forward. And one very important thing that I want you to all learn is that you should all be titling your main topic. Everybody should have a title on their main topic. Here's mine, okay? And look what I did. What makes an excellent infographic? There's the title of my topic. DES 240 Information Design, Bill Sweeney. That's who it is. Now, you could also put instructor Bill Sweeney and then your name, okay? But since I'm the instructor and I'm putting this in, I don't do that. I just simply put my name. But, you know, what makes an excellent infographic? That should be there. It's a title. The course, DES 240 Information Design, that should be there. Instructor Bill Sweeney, that should be there. and then your name. That's what should really be there. And it should look something like this. And I don't know whether you can see this or not, but can you see how I basically, I didn't do what I normally do. What I normally do is, I'm going to show you this. What I normally do, I'm going to edit this. I'm going to show you what I normally do. What I normally do, this is my citation. I make sure that my citation is isolated. And I make sure that I format the citation. One of the things that I do is I increase the indent on it, and I bold it, and I italicize it, and I often will come in and I will add a color to it. Okay, and actually I just knocked the italic off of this. So let me, this is a background. I didn't want the background. I want the text color. There we go. I hit the wrong one. Red. Yeah, there we go. And that should do it. Yeah. Oh, I didn't get it. Did I? Now let me see here. What's going on with this? Why is this not editing? It's not picking up my formatting. It partially did. For some reason now it's decided it doesn't want to work with me. All right. Well, anyway, it's just not working. I can't get this thing to work. I don't know what's going on with it. But at any rate, as you can see, what I've done, I've made this thing stand out. That's basically what I'm looking for. So, and I tell you these things because it makes your presentation better. It makes your presentation look more professional. And as a graphic designer, you've got to start thinking about everything that you do visually and how that works. Okay. So I'm not going to keep beating this up. I just wanted to point that out to you. Let me get rid of the video here. All right. And so that's all I want to say basically about the discussion this week. What I would like to do is I'd like to go in and I'd like to talk a little bit about the assignment, because I want to make sure everybody understands what the assignment really is. Okay, so let's go over it. What does information design really mean? Geez, dummy, hit the wrong button. Let me go back. There we go. Week 3, assignment, planning a user-friendly interface. All right, now actually, I found this to be an exciting and fun project. I really enjoyed doing this. And when I get to show you in a minute what I did, I think you'll see why I enjoyed it. And I have it in mind tonight to go through the process of, well, let me get started talking about it first, and I'll get into what my plans for tonight really are. Planning a user-friendly interface. Now, the learning objectives covered here are very important for you to understand. So the first learning objective is how to design a set of symbols with a cohesive theme that can be universally understood. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose a company, all right? And there's a number of different companies. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to choose a company. We're going to take a look at the logos from the company, and we're going to make a determination based on the logos. And another thing that I strongly recommend that you do, and that's what I did, and I'm going to show you that as well, is if you use one of the companies, like I chose to use the Home Depot, all right? The Home Depot has a website. And the first thing that I did, well, the second thing that I did, the first thing I did was I went online and I found me copies of the actual Home Depot logo, which I downloaded because I was going to use the Home Depot logo. I then went on their website and I started looking around the website so that I could kind of orient myself to the way their graphics are being used on the website. So I truly think it's a good idea for you, once you get started on this project, to go in and take a look at the website of the business that you choose. And it's probably a good idea to choose a business that has a website. In other words, you want to probably choose a real business, because then you can really go in and you can get an idea of what their branding looks like. What kind of fonts do they use? What colors are they using? You know, what kind of layouts? How, you know, and another thing that you can do, which I did, was I used the website to generate images for my layout. I created a layout, and where do you think I got all my images from? I actually went right on their website and I extracted images from their website and I used them into my little interface. And I have no problem with you doing that. As a matter of fact, I think it's a great idea, because in the end, what you end up with is something that really looks like it could come from, in my case, the Home Depot, okay? So the first thing is you're going to design a set of symbols, cohesive theme that can be universally understood. Develop a cohesive user interface that supports best practices of hierarchy and principle of design. Those are the two things that we achieve this week and next week in our project. And as I say, it's a fun project. It really is fun, and you learn some very interesting and valuable things. You learn how to create an e-publication with interaction, and you actually create an online kiosk demo that actually functions, and it's online. You can send links to people and they can go online and look at this. It's cool. It's absolutely cool, and it's very easy to do. It really is. I mean, again, you're going to have to do some work. There's no way out of it. You're going to be doing some work, and you have to put some energy into this whole thing. But again, you guys are graphic designers. This should be a lot of fun for you. Doing graphic design work, I find it fun. I'm in a way, I'm glad I became a graphic designer. I would have probably not have been as happy being anything else than as a graphic designer. I enjoy the work. So anytime I get a chance to do stuff like this, I'm very happy. And I did this work mostly in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign, both of which are programs I feel very comfortable in. And I mean, even if you don't feel comfortable in it, if you work with the programs, eventually you will. So it is kind of important that, you know, you take time and energy to do these assignments. And again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to build yourself a piece that would go into a portfolio that maybe will get you work. And the other thing is you're trying to learn things. That's the whole thing here. And if you don't put the energy in, you're just not going to learn. So planning the user interface. User interface and user experience are often used in conjunction and are closely related. So the interface is what the actual device looks like, and the user experience is how the viewer or the user interacts with that. It's very important that you understand the difference and how they relate, okay? The user interface is the digital display that the user sees when interacting with a device, like a monitor or a screen. The user experience is how the user responds to the interface functions when interacted with. The designer is responsible for this being a good and comfortable experience. So one of the things that you need to do is you need to develop a plan for doing this that's going to be very easily understood. You don't want the person to come in and sit there and scratch their head and wonder what's going on. Now, my pieces are not 100% done. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and as I went along, I recognized the need for some refinement. But even with that being said, I still got a pretty good user interface and user experience started. And again, I don't expect you to be 100% perfect with it. I just expect it to work. I expect to see you begin the process of understanding how to design something and make it function easily, okay? That's what I'm really looking for. It needs to be intuitive, have a cohesive, sometime branded feel. Let me tell you something about branding. You're going to find that the majority of the work that you do for decent companies are going to fall within the classification of branded experiences or branded feels. I can't think of many companies that are not big companies that don't have a branding and standards manual. And one of the very first things that happens to you as a graphic designer when you go to work for a new company is you are given a copy of the branding and standards manual, and you are expected to go through it, learn it, so that when you work, you apply the principles that are within it. We don't have that in this particular case, but you need to understand that that exists. That's why when you go in and see, when I create my Home Depot, I concentrate on the type of fonts that they use, the colors that they use, the way things lay out, and the colors of their logo and how my elements, my logos relate to their logos, my little icons. Okay, so these are the things that you need to do, and I'm going to cover some of that as we move through the night. All right, so have a cohesive, sometime branded feel, and hopefully be universally understood. So it doesn't need a lot of text to be functional. We know how quickly you can lose an audience once they have to read a lot of text. Here's the important thing for you to understand. When you're working on the internet, the goal is to try not to be incorporating a whole lot of text. You don't want to have all these call-outs telling people what to do. They should be able to look at what you are presenting them with and figure it out fairly easy what this thing is going to do. And if you can make that happen, you have a successful user interface and user experience. That's what's important, okay? All right, so the first thing that we talk about here, and that is the effective logo design. In information design, symbols are often referred to as icons. So part of our project for this week is for us to develop a series of icons. There's going to be approximately 5 icons because, if I'm not mistaken, each one of the companies that you're going to build this little kiosk user interface for has a logo because it's a company. I'll use the Home Depot as an example because that's the one that I chose to work on. So you're going to go and you're going to find the Home Depot logo, and you're going to understand the color and how the thing is designed. And then what you're going to do is you're going to develop a series of these symbols, these icons, to suggest the departments that you're going to illustrate in your user interface. So most user interface design relies on these icons to communicate quickly, universally, and without using too much space. Icons need to be simple, clear, easy to understand, and have a cohesive look and feel. It's really important that your icons should be clear and easy to understand what they are. You don't want to make these things too elaborate. They should be simple, they should be clean, they should look easy to understand and work in an appropriate manner. For icons to be quick and easy and quick to understand, you have to give up your desire to be unique and different. Well, that's not entirely true. You certainly can try to be unique and different, but the bottom line is you have to give up anything that is unnecessary. You have to distill things down to the least common denominator. In a few moments, I'm going to be showing you my buttons, and I'm going to actually create a couple of them for you so that you could see how I did this, so that you will have some ideas how you might go ahead and do it. And again, my goal is to not give you a way to do mine, but to give you an idea of how I thought about mine and how you might consider thinking about yours when you create them, all right? In icon design, you will instead strive to be predictable and rely on common metaphors and symbols that the audience is already familiar with. So think about that very carefully and try to remember you're trying to be predictable and you're trying to rely on common metaphors and symbols. And again, you can very easily look up common metaphorical or symbol keywords doing a Google search, like for instance, lawn and garden. You know, I looked up, one of the ones that I had to come up with was lawn and garden. So I went in and I went lawn and garden free vector line art. And I looked up that and I came up with a bunch of stuff and I found something that I thought worked beautifully. So again, that's, and what I did was, well, I'm going to get into that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll get into that. But anyway, that's what you're going to do. Common metaphors and symbols that are easy to understand and people will be familiar with. But they also have to work in the context of what you're doing, okay? Objects should be shown in their simplest and most recognizable form. These are buttons. These are icons. These are not illustrations. You know, we're not painting the ceiling of the Leonardo da Vinci painted the whatchamacallit ceiling. I can't even think of the name of the church that he did it in. But at any rate, what we're doing is we're creating very simple and recognizable forms. Avoid unnecessary details that will only clutter and confuse the message. So what I'm suggesting here is that things should be, it should be relative in order for you to use it. You don't want to put anything extraneous in there. If it's something that is relative to what you're trying to do, if it's something that is essential, you should try to incorporate it. If it's not essential, then you need to be thinking to yourself, do I need this? And if you don't, if you can't come up with a clean, clear justification for having it, more than likely you don't need it. And then you leave it out, especially if they need to be used in a small size on the screen. Now, that's another problem when you're working with something that's going to be viewed on the screen. You have size limitation. So you have to keep that in mind. When you're working on something, there's a size limitation, and everything counts, and everything has a size. That's why we talk about hierarchy. Try to imagine that you're trying to build something with a hierarchy and setting it up so that you have a level of importance that you establish. What's the most important thing? What is the absolute least important, and what falls in between? When designing a set of symbols, icons that will be used in the same interface, it's important that they have a cohesive look and feel. Using a grid and clean geometric shapes to create icons is a good way to get a consistent shape, curve, and angle. And as a matter of fact, I totally agree with that. What I did was I based my logos on the Home Depot logo. I looked at the Home Depot logo, and I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to create a vector shape, a graphic shape, a symbol or icon that would work with the Home Depot logo. I'm going to show you them shortly, and we're going to work on them tonight. So you'll get an idea of just how I did this. Basic vector shape tools are very useful when creating a simple and consistent set of icons. Guys, very important. You really should do this in Adobe Illustrator. What you're working with here should be done in Adobe Illustrator. You have the best opportunity to create very flexible, very good quality graphics of this type in Adobe Illustrator. So I really, I used Adobe Illustrator entirely to create mine, and I highly recommend that you do the same. And as a matter of fact, it's something that, Adobe Illustrator is something that you guys should try very hard to quickly become familiar with and comfortable in, because you're going to, as you grow and become more deeply involved with graphic design, you're going to find that more and more you're going to be using Adobe Illustrator. It's a very powerful program. You can do an awful lot with it, and it's well worth knowing, and knowing well. Okay, so now we're getting into our prompt. So for your week or your assignment this week, you're going to start the design process for your interactive kiosk. It's a large superstore, and in a moment you can see it coming up. Number one, Superstore, Walmart, and Target. We'll get to that in a second, but in a moment we'll be going over that. So that's basically what we're doing here. The kiosk that you're going to be designing for would be placed close to the entrance of the store and be used for customers to find their way around the store and be able to search and find the location of a specific item. This project is about making the kiosk user-friendly and cohesive with a shopping experience and a brand of the store. Now, here's the thing that you have to understand. We're only going to be doing like 4 or 5 pages of this kiosk. So the kiosk design that we're coming up with is anything but a complete design for a complete user-friendly kiosk experience. It's a partial experience. It's just enough that we get a chance to actually do this. I need to make you really understand this. When you see what I did, it is way far from being complete. I mean, to do an actual kiosk for a large superstore like what we're talking about here would be much more specifically involved than what I'm doing here. This is a small section of what this kiosk design would be. It's, as I said, it's just enough that you get a sense of how to approach doing it, and you'll learn a tremendous amount from doing the project. And come up with something really cool looking and something that works in a very exciting way if you take the trouble to do it, which I hope you will. All right? So you will have a choice between several existing chain stores. Choose one store from the options below for your project. Each type of store has 5 general departments listed. So before I even get into talking about the stores, you got 5 departments. You will probably have an opening screen. You'll probably have an opening screen, because that's what I have. I have an opening screen. I have a navigational panel, which gives me the ability to navigate anywhere within the 5 categories. And then you will have a category screen. So my project actually has to have at least 7. Now, what I did was I actually went a step further on mine, which you don't necessarily have to do. What I did was I also created windows that show product. So what you can do is once you get the directions, you can click on the logo within the area that you're going to visit, and it will open up a screen to show you the products. Now, I only created it so that it shows a little section or segment of the products. But again, I'm going to get into that in a minute when I get there. Okay, you'll see what I'm talking about. You may also choose an existing store of your own with my approval, but you need to notify me that you're going to do this, and I need to be able to approve it from you. To be totally honest with you, I don't really think you need to do that. I think you'd be just as good going with the superstores that are listed here. The ones that they give you are Walmart or Target, and the areas that you're going to be trying to define is the grocery area, the home area, pharmacy area, the apparel, the electronics, the home improvement, Lowe's or Home Depot. I don't know why, but for some reason I chose Home Depot. That's what I decided to do. And Home Depot, you have to illustrate the lumber, the paint, the tools, the yard and garden, and the electric. So I did Home Depot, and I'm actually glad that I did Home Depot, because Home Depot worked out absolutely beautifully for me. I came up with something that's phenomenal. I'm very happy with it. Again, all things in proper perspective, it's far from complete, and it probably could use some refinement. But again, we've only got 2 weeks, and there's only so much you can do in 2 weeks. My goal is to see you guys do something. If you could get somewhere close to what I come up with, I'd be very happy. I totally get it. It's 2 weeks. I totally get it. There's not a lot of time to do this. But there is enough time if you put the energy in to come up with something nice. You know why I say that? Because I did it. If I can do it, you can do it. That's the way I feel about it. And again, maybe you don't do it quite as good as I do, but you can do it. And that's the important thing, all right, that you try. So the other one is Craft and Hobby, Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and theirs is art supplies, jewelry making, yarn, paper crafts, and floral. You may want to choose a store that you're familiar with, or that you can visit in person to better plan your project. Again, if you're going to do that, you have to notify me and let me know that you're going to do it, and I have to approve it. I just don't want you to go off and do this without letting me know that you're doing it. It's very important that you communicate with me and you let me know what you're doing. If you're going to be picking like Craft and Hobby or the Home Improvement or the Superstore, either Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, you don't have to contact me and tell me. Just use them, okay? But the bottom line is I just want you to, be in touch with me and let me know if you're going to do something other than that. All right, now, let's get down to some of the specifics here, because we're getting to the point where we're almost ready for me to go in and start showing you how to do this. So you will be called upon to use the existing logo and the branding for the store for your project. So let me explain what I mean by this. Each one of those stores up there has an existing logo. You got to first go in and find that logo. I did it. I'm going to show you how I did it, and I'm going to show you how I set up to work with it. The branding, one of the things that I did, because I don't have a branding manual for any of these stores, if you want to see what the branding of a store looks like, do a Google search for the website, the primary website for the store. Go into the website and sort of navigate around and look at the way they design things. Look at the colors that they use. Look at the graphics that are being employed. Look at the way they lay things out. Look at the colors that they're employing. That will give you some cues as to what your branding for your project should look like. You're going to locate, if you can, a vector version of your store's logo on the Brands of the World site. I'm going to show you how you can take any piece of art, pretty much, any one of these logos, and turn it into a piece of vector art that you have all the flexibility in the world with. I'm going to show you that tonight. That's the first thing I'm going to do. But there's a link to Brands of the World site. You can go in there and you could search for, say, Michael's, or you could search for Lowe's or Home Depot, and logos will come up. If you want to go in another direction, go to Google and type in Google vector logos for Lowe's, vector logos for Home Depot, and you'll get a whole bunch of them coming up, and you can utilize them as well. All right. There's the full link for brandsoftheworld.com. So those are two links that you could use to do that. So here's the thing. This is totally incorrect. I don't know why they say this, but you will be designing a minimum of 4 screens. To be completely honest with you, to do this project right, let me explain what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to create an opening screen, so that's 1 screen. You're going to have to create a navigational screen, so that's 2 screens. You're going to have to do an art supply, a jewelry making, a yarn, a paper craft, and a floral, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the opening screen, plus the navigational screen, and that's 7. So you're actually going to need, if you do what I did, which is what I suggest you do, because it makes a pretty good presentation of a user interface for a kiosk, you're going to need 7 of them. Now, the truth is that you can create your opening screen very simply. You'll see that in a minute. It's a very simple screen to create. Your navigation screen is a little more complicated, but you can modify that very same navigational screen for all of your individual department screens, which is exactly what I did. So the big job is to create your opening screen, which is a small bit of work to do. It's not hard at all. You are given a simplified store mat format, which is what I use to create my navigation and my department screens. So that's partly done for you, and then you customize the map as you would like. So believe me when I tell you, this thing looks a whole lot more difficult than it is. The most important thing is that you come up with the imagery and the layouts, and all that can be achieved by going to the site. Like, for instance, again, mine is the Home Depot. If you go to the Home Depot site, you can see everything that you need right at that site to make this a success for you. You can find imagery that you can use. You can pick up copy. If you want to put copy into it, you can pick the copy up. And as a matter of fact, the Home Depot site, I keep using that one. I'm referring to that one because I basically use that one. The Home Depot site is set up departmentally, which is exactly the way your icon is going to be sent up. Your kiosk is going to be set up. So, I mean, you can literally go to Yard and Garden, electrical tools, and you have a complete page or a series of pages that's all about tools or yard and garden and electrical, and everything that you could possibly want is right there. So, I mean, if you're smart, this is not a difficult project to do. It just takes a little bit of time and organization. All right, so you will be using an existing logo and branding. Locate a vector version, blah, 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 blah. You will be designing a minimum of 4 screens. A simplified store map in AI format is provided for you to use. So right here, you can download that map, and it is an AI file. It'll open up, and what I did was I just saved it as my own version, keeping the original intact, and I built right from that. You can customize this map if you would like, but remember, it's best to keep it clear and simple for the user. Focus on the required parts of the assignment each week. So this week, what you're going to do, here's the assignment instructions for this week. This week, rough out the user interface and content of the main screens. Consider the flow from screen to screen. Choose what text you need for each screen and think about how the screens interact with one another. Carefully think through and plan the user experience. Use hierarchy and the principles of design to guide your user through your screen. Consider your own experiences with kiosks and what you may find helpful or irritating. So in other words, if you've ever worked with a kiosk, do you remember any part of it being a pain in the neck to work with? What parts were easy and nice? These are some of the things that you think about when you develop your own. This is what I'm going to be focusing on tonight. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be more focusing on the screens. I'll be dealing with these tonight. So the first thing that I think you should do is design 5 symbols/icons to represent departments using Illustrator. I really want to point this out to you. It's telling you to use Adobe Illustrator. That is correct. That is great. A great suggestion, and I'm glad they put it in there, because the fact remains Illustrator is the absolute best way to approach doing this project. I mean, you can't beat it. So it's very important that you understand what we're working on tonight, these 5 symbols, these logos. This all should be done creating what is known as vector art or resolution independent art, which is what you get with Illustrator. Resolution independent art means that that art, because of the nature of what it is, it's vector art, it can be made bigger or smaller as often as you want. That's what makes this so great. To guide you in your symbol icon design, refer to the week's readings so you can go in and take a look at the readings on successful icon design. I am going to be doing some icon work tonight in the next half of our evening. I'm going to be working specifically on mine, and I will be explaining a lot of this stuff as we go along. I'm also going to give you some ideas. Again, I'm going to restate how I went about getting some of the graphics that I used to create my icon. So I'm going to cover a lot of this in the next hour. Again, I'm almost through with this, and I'm almost ready to start on it. So refer to this week's readings on successful icon design. Remember to keep them simple and recognizable. This is something that I can't mention enough to you. Keep your symbols simple and recognizable. But again, keep them clean and keep them appropriate for the business. You're graphic designers. I mean, come on. You've got to put some effort into this. You have to really try to do something that illustrates your ability as a graphic designer. What are you going to use to get a job if you don't spend the time and the effort to do these projects? I'm going to do everything in my power to try to give you some ideas as to how to go about doing it. I'm not saying you should copy me directly, but you can use some of the basic principles that I'm doing when I create my icons. You can use those kind of principles, and you could employ them to create your own. They're basic things that you could use. I'm just showing you how I applied them to mine. And again, you could use the Illustrator basic shape tools and avoid small details. Keep in mind that these icons end up being not terribly big. They're going to end up being rather small. So keep them simple and keep them clean and easy to read. When these things get done, you should be able to have no trouble seeing what they are and reading them. Okay, now, as far as creating the actual project is concerned, most of the artwork that you're going to create will be done in Illustrator, and I'm going to show you that tonight and tomorrow night. So tonight, tomorrow night, I'm going to be going through the production of my main screens and my icons. Those are the things that I'm going to be concentrating on this week. And next week I'm going to, and I probably will show a little bit about how to get started in design next week, this week, so that next week we can really get into it as to how to build my actual 7 pages that I'm then going to turn into an interactive online kiosk display. And I'm also going to show you my interactive EPUB that I created, which I'm going to show you momentarily. So if you did hand sketches, place place images of these in the document, be sure to include a company logo and the symbol icon as designed. Whenever you get done with whatever you get done with this week, which will probably be your screens, your main screens, and probably at least 2 main screens. That will be your opening screen, which will probably be very simple, and your main navigational panel, which I'm going to work on tomorrow night probably, although I may get started with them tonight. We'll see how it goes. And then, of course, your 5 icons, which I'm going to be concentrating on tonight, okay? Whatever you submit, it's going to be a multi-page PDF. So if you decide to do things on different pages, which is what I did, you're going to save them as PDFs, and you're going to go into Acrobat, and you're going to combine the PDFs. What I probably will do tomorrow night is I probably will demonstrate how to combine the PDFs. I really don't know whether all of you know how to do that or not, so I'm going to kind of assume that maybe you don't, and I'm going to demonstrate it, but I'll probably do that tomorrow night. So the submission instructions, name your file, and then submit a multi-page PDF of all your sketches, icons, and map layouts for grading. So again, try to avoid doing the sketches. Try to get involved in the actual production of the maps, of the icons, and the map layout, the mapping layouts. Those are the things that I would recommend that you focus on. Okay? Again, I don't have anybody here, so I can't really ask if there's any questions. Hopefully there aren't any. What I've said hopefully will be clear enough for you. So the first thing that I want to do is I got 2 things that I want to show you before I actually begin the process of starting to work on my icons and I start showing you my interfaces. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to come to a website right here. This here, what you're looking at, this is the opening page of my kiosk. This would be, if you were walking up to the kiosk, this would be the very first thing that you see. So it basically is very simple. It just says, and you could create something almost exactly the same as this. Just welcome to Lowe's, welcome to Michael's, welcome to Target, whatever, you know. And then what can we help you find today? That's a very generic kind of statement. And what you would do is when you come up to this, you would come around here and you can see there's no linkage. But if you come here, look, you see the hand? So that basically tells you that there's a link here. Now, when I click this link, I'm brought to this screen here. This is my main navigational panel. If you look at this, just so that you understand, shortly you're going to see this in Illustrator. See these gray areas back here? There are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gray areas, and then there's a checkout and a kiosk. Now, the checkout and the kiosk I replaced, but there were just 2 gray areas for the checkout and the kiosk, and then there was these 5 areas which represent areas of your mapping, okay? That's what you're given. So basically what I did was I utilized it. I didn't even change the color. I left it gray because gray I thought worked fine with it. But what I did was I built the painting logo, I put the text in here, I put the picture in, I put that piece of art with the text in, and I did that on each one of them, and I tried to make them all as consistent as I possibly could, okay? So now what I end up with is I end up with 5 areas that, and again, keep in mind, this is a very small version of this project. Obviously, there would be much more to this because there is more to the Home Depot than painting, electrical, lumber, tools, and lawn and garden. There are many other departments. So this would have to be a bigger screen, or it would have to be an expandable screen or a scrolling screen to cover all the different areas. This is a simplified version of this, and I'm trying to make you understand that. Now, what you need to understand is I got a series of links here. What I did was I set this up, and what this link is going to do, if I hit this link, it's going to take me back to the previous page. So let me just do that to show you. See, it brings me back out. Now, why would I do that? Who knows? I just did it because I wanted to show you could do it. So let me go back in, and now what I have is I have the 5 different areas, and I have these logos here, which I'm going to show you how to do tonight. I have these logos. There's my painting logo, and notice that there's a hotspot on that logo. Now here's electric. There's a hotspot on that electric. here's the lumber. There's a hot spot on that lumber. And there's one on the yard and garden. And there's one on the tools. So let's come up and let's click on the painting one. And what it does basically is it takes me to a screen which is nearly the exact same screen as I saw before. But the difference is I removed that center element, and I've incorporated this little thing that represents a path from where you are at the kiosk to the department. And each one of these things, if I click on them, each one of them has a page that gives you this little path. And it's, again, this is very simple because this is a very simple project. I mean, if this were real, it would be probably more complicated than this. But again, it's a 2-week project. If you can get this much done, you're doing great. Okay, so each one of these little icons here, okay, each one, and some of these don't seem to be working all of a sudden. I'm not sure why. Let me go back to my kiosk. All right, here we go. Now click on this one. I missed a couple of the links. This one takes you over to here. This brings you back to the kiosk, okay? Then you come over here to the lumber. See, and again, this brings you to the lumber. Now, the other thing I did, and you don't have to do this, but I also did this because I wanted you to see how something like this would work. If you click on the lumber again, what it does is it brings you into another panel that shows you some of the features that you're going to find in that department. This would normally be a scrolling deal, and it would scroll up and there would be all kinds of different material showing here. But keep in mind, this is a very simplified version of this. Now, there's like 2 other things that I wanted to show you. One of them is this guy right here. If you click on this, it takes you up. I accidentally hit it twice. I'm very sorry. Let me do it again. Let me go back to lumber. And let me click on lumber. And if I click on this one time, it takes me back out to my main panel. Okay? So if I go to lumber again, and if I go here, I also have these links down here. And each one of these links, if I wanted to, if I say suddenly, instead of going all the way back out to my main panel, let's say after I look at lumber, I want to go and look at electric. All I have to do is click on electric, and it takes me to electric. And it doesn't take me to the path to electric. It takes me to the product category from electric. Okay? So all of these things are done and linked so that you get this interaction. Okay? So that's basically one of the things that you're going to do next week. And I know this thing looks, and again, keep in mind, I'm going to go back out. You don't really have to do all the pages that I did. What I'm looking for from you is I'm looking for this. I'm looking for you to link to something like this. And then I'm looking for you to link to something like this, which then gives you a direction from the kiosk, which is where you are, to that department. And if you go to kiosk and you come back over here and click on tools, it shows you how to get to tools. Come back to the kiosk. You want to click on yards and gardens, it shows you how to get to yards and gardens. If you want to click on lumber, it shows you how to get from the kiosk to the lumber department. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a very simplified project. If this were real, there would be much more to it. Don't let that throw you. What you're trying to do is you're trying to set this thing up. This is how it's going to work. This is one of the things that you're going to accomplish. The other thing I want to show you, this is also very cool. This is what's known as an EPUB. Now, this does exactly the same thing, but this is not online. This is an Adobe PDF. And you can do that right here by creating links right here, add or edit links. So this will function exactly the same way as the other one does, except that this is an Adobe PDF, an interactive PDF. I'm also going to show you how to do this next week. So again, this works exactly the same way. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click on painting, and I go into painting, and what it does is it shows me how to get into painting. Then if I click on painting again, it takes me in and it shows me the painting products. Now if I want, I can go back to my main here, and if I want to go back to painting, if I wanted to click it again and come in here and look at my painting, now let's say I want to look at lumber, it takes me to the lumber department. Doesn't show me how to get there, it takes me to the products. So these down here are the product categories. And again, this would scroll, normally this would scroll and there'd be much more in here, but this is a simplified version. So those are the two things that we're going to accomplish by the end of next week. We're going to work on this stuff tonight, tomorrow night, next Monday, and next Tuesday. And by the time we get done with those 4 days, you should have enough knowledge, enough understanding of how to do this to do exactly what I did right here, or something very similar to it. Okay? So basically, that's the assignment, and I'm telling you flat out, it isn't so terribly difficult. And as a matter of fact, I found it to be an awful lot of fun to do. And if you watch how I do it, if you pay attention to what I do, follow my path, you'll be able to come up with something very similar to this, and you'll learn some terrific stuff and have some very nice pieces. All right, so to the icons first. I'm going to open up Illustrator, and the very first thing I'm going to show you, whoops, let me do this because this is just getting in the way. Let me get rid of that guy, and let me open that up. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Oh, geez, this is a pain in the neck. There we go. There we go. All right. Oh, man. What is with this Illustrator? This thing's actually misbehaving terribly. There we go. All right, that'll work. All right, so Illustrator, here we go. Now I got my Illustrator. Let me open this up a little bit more. There we go. All right, so here's the first thing that I did. I identified some of the branding elements. Now, what are the branding elements? Number one, the branding element is the logo. So what I did was I went online and I did a Google search for the logo. I'm going to do that in a minute because I want to go through as many of the different steps as I possibly can so that you really don't get any kind of confused at all as to how to do this. You can actually go in and you can follow the way I did this and come up with something that will help you to succeed. So I first got my logo, and this piece of logo has been converted into a piece of vector art. When I got this logo, it was a bitmap, which means essentially that it was a flattened piece of art that I could not really manipulate the size with very much, or I couldn't change colors if I wanted to. So that was the first thing, and you'll see what I'm talking about shortly. The second thing I needed to do was I needed to identify that font, and it turns out that that font I had on my computer. Now, I think the reason I got that font was because I was doing something that had to do with the Home Depot. If I go to my character panel, you'll see that it's Stencil Standard Bold. And that's why when I set this thing up, I called it Stencil Standard Bold. If you don't have this on your computer, which is very, and I'm only going under the assumption that you're doing Home Depot. Not everybody is going to do Home Depot. But if you're doing Home Depot and you want to incorporate the font for Home Depot, the font you're looking for is Stencil Standard Bold. That's essentially what you want. And it is, you can find it. If it's not on your computer, you probably can go and you can probably find it online in the, go to character and go to, come on. Oh, come on. What's the deal here? Oh, geez. Here we go. Typekit. You could probably find Stencil Standard Bold in Typekit, and you can download it. That's assuming, again, that you're going to be working on Home Depot. Okay? Now, the other thing is the branding color, which is this orange color. Now, I was able to find that orange color. I don't have their branding manual, so I don't know exactly what the color is. But what I did was I found a color version of the logo that I wanted to bring in, and I stole the color from that logo. And even though it is not the 100% correct branded color, it's close enough to that branded color that it looks exactly the same. Okay? And it comes out to be cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. There's no black, 100% yellow, 51.2% magenta, which is red, and cyan, which is kind of a bluish color, 1.54%. And that's the formula that makes that color right there in cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So I'm just giving you a look at some of the things that I needed to get this logo. And getting the logo, in my opinion, is the very first thing that you want to do. You want to get the logo. You want to identify the fonts that are being used so that you can incorporate those fonts in part of your creative work, which is exactly what I had in mind to do. And then you also wanted to get the branding colors. In this particular case, I pretty much think they use white, black, and this orange color predominantly for their branding colors. They also, I believe, use a gray as well. So those colors are the colors that they use. I was most interested in this orangey color because that is their primary logo color, and I wanted it to be exact as possible because I'm going to be making a bunch of different logos. I got them right here. I'm going to show them to you in a minute, but before I do that, what I want to do is I want to go back to my web, and what I'm going to do under search is I'm going to search for Google. Oops. Google. And let's go to Google. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for vector. Oh. Black and white. Vector. Logo, the Home Depot. Okay, so something like that will do, and hit Google search, and there you go. Okay, now if I go to images, okay, and I go to tools, and I go to size, and I go to larger than, and I go, you know, somewhere like maybe 1224 by 728 or 2 megabytes. That gives me big ones, okay? Well, actually, I'm not doing too well here. I'm not doing too well because I didn't get the black and whites here. So let's go back to the larger than size and go back to larger than. Let's go try one smaller. There we go. That's what I'm looking for right there. I wanted that black and white one, okay? And all I did literally was I dragged and dropped that to my desktop, and now I got that black and white logo, okay? Just as simple as that. And right there is my Home Depot logo. I have found a better one than that. Actually, I dragged this one out. So let me show you something. So there's my logo. Let me go File, New. File, New. And I'm going to call this, 8x8. Hit Create. That's fine for us. And I have 2 of them on here. I don't really want 2. I only want 1. So I'm going to delete that. There we go. And let's move it towards the center. All right, now, the important thing I have for you is in here I have my logo. File, Open. No, I'm sorry. File, Place. File, Place. And what I'm looking for is on my desktop in Information Design. Well, actually, you know what? Let me just go to the desktop. And let me bring in that Home Depot black and white transparent logo. Place. Boom. There it is. See? And it's huge. Okay? Well, Control Z. I moved the Artboard. Let me get the regular selection tool. There it is. It's actually extremely big. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually scale this thing down. I'm going to bring it down in size because I don't really need it to be that big. So I'm going to bring it down in size. Move it up. Bring it down until it pretty much fits. I only need it to fit. Yeah, so I'll bring it down. See, it's pretty big. That's what's good about it. There we go. Now we're in business. That's actually pretty close. That'll do it. I'll maybe make it a little bit smaller. Hold on. Almost there. There. Perfect. Okay, so there's my Home Depot logo. This is actually a ping file. So let me go File, Save As, and I'm going to save it on the desktop, and I'm going to call this my logo, L-O-G-O, logo, and hit Save. All right? And I'm going to hit OK. So now I have this logo here. This is the actual logo that I'm going to be creating my piece from, my main logo. So what I want to do with this thing, since it's a bitmap, I want to be able to color this background that orange color, and I also want to be able to scale this thing properly. As it is right now, I can't work with it. So by selecting this thing and going up to the Object menu, I can go down to Image Trace, and I can choose Make. And tracing may be slower. It's a large image. I don't care. It's perfectly fine. Here we go. and it will trace that image. Give it a second to do it. There it is. Boom. And it's nice and cleanly traced. Look at that. It's actually pretty darn good. So I could, if I wanted to, come in here and I could play around with threshold. You know, I could maybe move the threshold up or down, or I can play around with the paths or the corners, the noise. But actually, I don't really need to do any of those things because this thing looks pretty good just the way it is. And this is going to be a mock-up, so I'm not terribly concerned that this is like 100%. I just want it to be clean enough that it'll work, and this will work. So now that I've traced this, I'm going to go to the Object menu. I'm going to go to Image Trace again, and I'm going to expand it. And look, it has actually become a piece of transparent art. Now, what I need to do with this is I need to take this apart. Now, the problem I have with this, watch what I do here. I'm going to drag a shape, and I'm going to fill that shape with a color. Let me fill it with a color so that you can see what's going on here. There's the color. I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Okay, so you see what's going on here? I have this, it's kind of a mess. It isn't really what I want. What I want is, I want that shape. I want that rectangular shape, and I don't want that white area right there. If I click on that white area and hit delete, you see what happens? Oh, actually, I forgot to ungroup it. Let's go Edit, Undo, Clear. Object, Ungroup. Okay, watch what happens. If I click on that and delete it, I get that, which is not what I want. Okay, so what I can do, what will work, is I could come in here with my rectangle tool, and I can very carefully drag a rectangular shape all the way over to here. Got to be very careful how I do this. And I want to go Edit, Cut, and click on that and go Edit, Paste, and Back. And now you see how I've got basically my Home Depot correct. Now I can, if I wanted to, I can come in here and I can remove these things, but I don't even need to do that. I'm actually in pretty good shape. What I need to do is, let me show you something else. Click on this, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key here. Let me go down and get that. Hold down the Shift key and click on that center of the R and click on that area right there. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to throw an orange in. There's my orange. Oh, and I missed that one little area there. And click that orange. Okay, now go View, Fit, Artboard, and Window. And what I want to do now is I want to take this thing and delete it. And look at that. There I have my Home Depot logo. And what I've done essentially is I've turned this into a piece of vector art. So the next thing I want to do is I want to select the whole thing. I want to go Object, Group. And now this thing is grouped. So that white area in the back is grouped. All these little elements in the center here are all grouped. It's all one single element. And I can now take this thing and I can scale this thing up and down. So I can make this thing really tiny. Okay? And it's perfectly clean. Or I can go Edit, Undo. And I can Edit, Undo, Scale. And I can make this thing huge. Let's make it 500%. And hit OK. And you see how I made this thing huge? Let's go View, Fit, Zoom Out. Yeah, that's it. View, Zoom Out a couple of times. And look at, see what I'm doing? I'm zooming it out. And look at how clean this is. I'm just trying to give you an idea. There's your artboard. That's how big this thing is. It's absolutely perfectly clear. Okay? So let's go Undo Scale. And there's my logo. That's the first thing that I did, was I created my logo. So if you go back to my original, or there's my Home Depot. What I just did here, okay, let's go View, Actual Size. There we go. There is my logo, and it's the exact same logo as I have right there. So that was the first thing that you're going to do. Now, if you do it with Target, if you do it with Walmart, whatever the logo might be, if you want, I can very quickly. Let's go back to here for a second, and let's take a look. Let's go black and white. Vector logo for Walmart, W-A-L-M-A-R-T, Walmart. Let's see what we get. Okay, so here's Walmart. There's Walmart right there. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to drag Walmart over to my desktop. Okay, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to come into the logo, and I'm going to take this guy and move it over, and I'm going to drag Walmart and drop it in there. Okay, so there's Walmart. Now Walmart is, again, very big, so I'm going to scale this thing down. Let's make it 50. Let's make it 25%. Let's see how that looks. Oh, didn't do it. Let me try it again. 25%. 25. Preview. That's good. Hit OK. Okay. So there's Walmart. Now, it's selected and it's a bitmap. That's the other thing. It's a bitmap. Now, even though this thing has a transparent background, I think it does. Object, arrange, send to back. There. Yeah. See, it does have a transparent background, and it is very big. But I still probably would want to turn this thing into a piece of vector art for the purpose of flexibility. So what I would do is, again, select this thing, and I'll move this out of the way. Select the logo, object, image trace, make, and there, it's made that tracing object. And again, I could come in if I wanted to. I could come in here and I could bring this out and I could fool around with the threshold or the paths or the corners. I don't think I really have to do it because that looks really clean. Object, image trace, expand. Boom. And look at that. I have now a functioning Walmart logo. Object, ungroup. Okay, but here's the thing I want you to understand. If I click on that and drag that down, you can see that there's a white background here. I want that white background gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the white area and delete it. And then I still am left with these little holes of white that are still in there. So I delete them. And now I have a Walmart logo that I can color and use. And so now you've seen me do it with a Walmart object group. So now I have a Walmart logo and I have a Home Depot logo. So that's how I would get myself the proper logo. The next step for me, if I was going to be working with Walmart, for say, would be to come in here and I would grab something like this and drag it over there. And then what I would do is I'd bring that in. Let's see if I got it or whether I lost it. Yeah, I didn't get it. Darn it. Oh, damned. Hold on. Go back in and let me click on this. And let's see if I can grab that one. I did. I got that one. Okay. So now I'm going to open up my AI and I'm going to drag and drop that in there. Okay. And as you can see, it's very big. So I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Because all I really want to do here is I want to select this. I'm going to, let me lock this. Object, Lock, Selection. Okay, what I want to do is I want to select the words. I'm going to use the group selection tool. I'm going to select the words Walmart. And then I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to grab that color blue. And so now I have the blue. And then what I'm going to do is with the group selection tool again, I'm going to click that little indicia there. And I'm going to sample that yellow color. And now I have my, let's go Object, Unlock All. And I can delete that. And now I have my Walmart, and I have the actual colors of the branded Walmart logo. That's all it is to do this. This is really not difficult to do. I hope you understand. This is not hard. And now I've got this thing grouped together, okay? And I can scale this thing. I can scale it down as much as I want or need, make it real small. I can make it real big. And it'll always look clean and neat because it's actually been converted to a piece of vector art. The most important thing for you to understand is that when you do your search, look for black and white vector logo for whatever your Michael's, let's try, just do one more. Let's go Target, T-A-R-G-E-T, Target, hit enter. Boom. Target store. Let's see if that helps. S-T-O-R-E, Target store. There we go. So there's your Target logo. You could either go with this logo or you could go with that logo, but there's your Target store. So what you would do is you'd pick on the one that you think would be the most, I would say probably this one here might be the one that they're using. I'm not really sure. If you have any questions about it at all, Another thing you could do would be to go Target and see what you come up with. Let's see here. Target Corporation. Let's see whether we can find Target. The Target main site. Let's see. Target store. Oh, whoa. I jumped the gun there. I think I saw online. Yeah, Target online. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Target site. Target website. Hold on, let's try that. WEBSITE. Boom, there it is. Target website. Let's see what this is. Online shopping. Okay, so here's basically the Australian version. Okay, so there it is. This is the other thing I would do. Now, let me just do this. Let me go to here. This is what I did. I went in, and here's my Home Depot. So I'm in Home Depot. I went to Home Depot, and this is what I found. This is what I looked at. This is what I use as a guide to help me develop my kiosk designs. Okay, and here, if you take a look, you have all the departments. Look, you got appliances, baths and faucets, blinds and treatments. Let's see. What am I looking for? Electrical. There's electrical. Okay, so you got electrical, wire, light bulbs, home security, surveillance, boxes, conduits, all kinds of stuff. You could pick whichever category that you want. I'm not even sure. I don't even know what one I used. I don't remember. Then you can also go to, let's see here. Let's see. Paint. Here's paint. There's paint, and you can go in exterior, interior, primer, all these different paints. Tools. Here's your tools. You know, and I'm sure there's lawn and garden. And what was the other one? The other one was woodworking, building materials. Building materials. So, you know, it doesn't say, I don't think it said it exactly the same way they say it. What did they call it? They call it lumber. They don't call it lumber here. They call it building materials. I don't see lumber. Yeah, I don't think they have lumber. But anyway, that's what I did. That's where I went. That's how I got my logos. Okay? So the next thing I want to do is I want to take you to the Home Depot logos. These are the logos that I created for my piece. Now, what I did, I'm going to try to explain this to you. I started my design with this, which was their logo. And I thought to myself, what kind of graphics would I use to suggest lumber, electrical, tools, painting, lawns, and gardens? Now, the other thing that I did was I created the basic shape of the logo. I thought I'm going to try to mimic the look of the logo. Okay, so I created a basic rectangular shape that's exactly the same size and proportion as the Home Depot logo. I decided that the next thing I noticed about it was they utilized this color of white and orange. And I thought, well, what would work with white and orange, black? So I thought I'd go with black, white, and orange. Those would be the colors I would try to work with. White, black, and orange. Now, the next thing I noticed is they always use this type, the Home Depot. So I thought, well, if I'm going to be making emblems or symbols, I should probably be using the same font. So you can see each one of mine has the same font. They're all used slightly differently, but they're basically the same font. Now, the other thing I noticed, and again, this is just my graphic designer's eye working, I'm looking and I'm noticing that the font, the word Home and Depot, slightly breaks out of the background of the rectangular shape. So I thought, okay, so if it's doing that, then maybe in order to match that look, I should probably have my type do the same thing. And then I thought what I would do is I would come up with an appropriate graphic for each one of the areas, the lumber area, the electrical area, the tools area, the painting area, and the yard and garden area. What I did was I went and did an online search, just like I did for the logo, for vector line art of lumber, vector line art of electrical appliances or electrical elements, tools, painting, lawns and gardens. And in each case, I came up with symbols that I thought worked very well. So what I did, let's see if I can come in here. Here's my painting. Here's an example of one of the symbols that I found. And I looked at this symbol, and at first, I mean, it doesn't say very much, but then I thought to myself, wow, if I utilize that as paint dripping down a can, and I had that rectangular shape as the can, that would be a pretty cool graphic. So I thought to myself, something that's as simple as a stupid little shape like that, which don't mean an awful lot, if it's used properly, I could end up making a really great little graphic out of it. So I grabbed that. Now let's go back in and let's see if I can. There's my departments. Okay, so here is my light bulb. I found that. I went and looked for a light bulb, and I found the light bulb. That's the light bulb that I used. I looked for wood. I found that piece of wood. Didn't really like it. Didn't think it was very good. And then I saw this piece of wood. Wasn't crazy about it either, but I thought it was a heck of a lot better than the other one, so I grabbed it. And then I went in here and I found myself a bunch of different tools, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. I got something in here I could use. Don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but I got something in there that I can use. So I grabbed that, and then over here in Lawn and Garden, I came in here and grabbed this, and what happened? There we go. And I thought to myself, there'll be something in here that I can use as well. Now, there does seem to be one thing. Oh, here it is, right here. There's the other one. I also grabbed this because I thought I might be able to use that piece of art as well. So there's the elements that I use to create my logos. The only thing that's left for me to do is to show you how I went about creating them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep them open. These are my symbols. Here's one of my symbols, the painting one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate this symbol for you. I'm going to show you how I did this so that you can get a pretty good idea of how I did it. And I also want you to notice that I went to the trouble of actually making this top. I made a little shape at the top that almost looks like the top of a paint can. Yes, it's very stylized, and yes, it's not particularly accurate, but the bottom line is when you're creating these little symbols, what you're doing is you're fooling the mind, you're fooling the viewer's eye into making them believe that you're looking at a can of paint. And little subtle things like this, believe it or not, help sort of establish the illusion that you're creating a can of paint. I know it sounds strange, but that is an absolute fact. So that's why I went to the trouble of doing it. So let me move this over and let me create another artboard over here, and I will show you how I went about creating this. Okay, so there's my little artboard, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go back to here, and actually I'm going to go to here. There we go. Click on that. Click on this, and let's go edit copy, and let me go back into here, and let's go edit paste. There we go. And I'm going to move this over here. Let me get my artboard zoomed in, so to speak. Okay, now this thing is bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go view, zoom out. All right, and I'm going to probably make this thing a little bit shorter. So I'm going to scale this thing up just a little tiny bit, like that maybe. Actually, don't think oh, it's distortion. I got the distortion one. It's not what I wanted. Okay, that's all right. Bring this down just a tiny bit, like that. There we go. So now we're in business. And maybe what I want to do is maybe I just want to open this artboard up a little bit. Let me do this. Let me move the artboard over some, like that. And let me open it up just a tiny bit so I have more room to work with. There we go. Like that and like that. There. That's probably pretty good right there. Okay. So that is my basic shape. Now, the top is very simple. What I did for the top was I came in here and I created a rectangle at the top, something along the lines of this, just about like that. Okay, no big deal, just a rectangle. Now, it looks more like a, I don't know, box or something right now. But if I come over here and if I get my direct selection tool, okay, you'll see that I get my little corner radius things. If I click on this guy and if I drag it in, I can change that to a nice rounded shape. Real simple. Look at that. And now I've got that top of my bottle, or top of my can already done. Very simple, right? All right, now what I need to do is I need to bring in this paint thing. So I'm going to go File, Place. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to find my my piece of art. Let's go to week 3, and let's go to images, and let's see, it is week 3, logo files, departments, painting. Here we go. Paint, and hit place. Boom, click, and there it is. Okay, so this is much smaller. So I'm going to have to be somewhat careful with this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on it, okay? And again, I'm going to go Object, Image Trace, Make. And actually, it comes out pretty good. But notice it's a little sloppy looking. See, it's a little bit sloppy looking. So when I have a problem like this, that's when I bring this panel out. And I'm going to see if I can do things with my threshold and my pass to maybe make that look a little cleaner. So I'm going to start off by dragging the threshold to a higher level. And it begins to clean it up a little bit. Let's take a look at the path. Let's bring the path up a little higher. Yeah, and that also corrects it some. Let me see if I can drag the noise down to next to none. And that helps a little bit as well. Let me try the corners. The corners don't seem to do much of anything. So I'm going to try sticking with the paths there. That's what did it. See, I brought the paths up really high to 90. See how that cleaned that up? And now the threshold, I may bring the threshold down a little bit. Not too much. That's probably good right there. So what I did to try to clean this up somewhat is I took the level, the threshold, and I brought the threshold higher. What these settings are doing is they're evaluating this graphic shape and they're making improvements to it. That's essentially what's going on here. Okay, so you just have to understand a little bit basically about how this works. So now that I've got that and it looks pretty good, I'm going to go to the object menu again, and I'm going to go to image trace, and I'm going to go expand. And now I've expanded this guy, and I actually have a piece of vector art, which I can begin to fool with. So let's go object, ungroup, and the first thing I want to do is I want to delete that overall background area. Beautiful. I want to leave the white because I think I need those little details. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go object, lock, selection, and I'm going to take this guy here, all of this, and I'm going to group it, object, group. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to view, fit artboard and window, and I'm going to see if I can get this thing to fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this right up to about there, and I am going to resize this thing to try to fit it, and drag this thing right over and try to make it refit, which would take me to right about there. Pretty close. Yep, that's actually pretty darn good. Okay, a little bit funny right up in there, but I think maybe if I move it up one, it might be fine. Yeah, close enough for our purposes. Okay, now the bottom comes off a little bit, so again, I could go object, ungroup, or unlock all, I should say, and I can scale this thing down back a little bit to about there, and now I should be in business. Or the other option is I could select that object and I can move it up like that, okay? And then I could take this object here and go object, arrange, bring to front. And now I have it. Now the major difference between this is this guy here at the bottom is going to be black. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to come into my swatches and I'm going to make that black. And actually, that's not really black. So let's see if I can make this really black. I'm going to drag that all the way down to the bottom and make that really true black. Perfect. Then I'm going to select this guy up at the top here. Only I'm going to select it with my group selection tool because remember I grouped this. I don't want to select these white areas. I just want to select that background area. And I'm going to apply my orange color to it, which is that color right there. And there you have it. There's my logo. And it's almost done. Now, the last step here, the last thing that I have to do, okay, is I have to incorporate the text. So I'm going to click with my type tool. I'm going to place, and I'm going to type painting, P-A-I-N-T-I-N-G, painting, okay. And then I'm going to format it. I'm going to come in here to my character panel, and I'm looking for stencil bold, stencil standard bold. I can't remember these things. You have to excuse me. Stencil. Here we go. Let's go in and let's go. Stencilstd. There, right there. Boom, boom, perfect. There it is. Stencil standard bold. Now, I'm going to move it over a little bit. I'm going to get my scale tool. Now I'm going to hold down the shift key because I want to constrain it. And I'm just going to bring it over until it's big enough to reach the other side. And I want it to go out just a tiny bit. See that little end of that G go out? I'll do the same thing over here and hold this side very carefully. I'm just going to bring that out ever so slightly. Oops, I'm having a little trouble doing it. Hold the shift key down. I want it. Come on, you. There we go. I got it. Oh, I think I did it. Perfect. That's it right there. Okay, so again, a tiny bit of the P is sticking beyond this, and a tiny bit of that G is sticking beyond this. So what I need to do, first of all, is I need to change this thing. I need to change it into a graphic shape, because right now it's live text, and I don't want it to be live text. I want it to be graphics, because what I'm about to do requires me to make this into graphics so that I can have the graphics interact with each other. So I'm going to make sure it's selected, go to the Type menu. I'm going to go Create Outlines. Now that is no longer text, they're graphics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the, let's first of all click on this and go Object, Ungroup. Hold on a second here. Up. Object, Ungroup. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to select this, and I'm going to click on the G, or actually that. Let me go Object, Ungroup. There we go. All right. And I'm going to go to Pathfinder right here, and I'm going to divide everything up. Now, the reason that I'm dividing this all up is I want to create those little end pieces which I'm going to get rid of. So I need to have those little tiny ends sticking out beyond the shape, and I want to divide everything up so that I can basically divide this whole thing. So I'm going to divide it all up. There we go. It's all divided. And now I'm going to come in here carefully. Let's see if I can get right to those ends. There we go. I'll see if I can select those ends. There it is. Delete it. See that? See how I deleted that little end? See that tiny little end? Delete it. Okay, and I'm going to go over to the other side, and there should be one on the other side too that I can delete right there. Now again, I'm going to the trouble of doing this because I'm trying to make the logo, View, Fit, Artboard, and Window. I'm trying to make the logo work, and actually, one thing I forgot, let's go Edit, Undo, Clear, Edit, Undo, Clear, Edit, Undo, Clear. Okay, Edit, Undo, Divide, and Edit, Undo. Actually, no, I'm good here. So I'm going to click on this. Hold on, let me deselect that. Now, why I went all the way back and undid this is because I don't really have the piece of art. Come on, darn it. There. I don't have that art in the right place. I want it to be higher. So I'm going to bring it back up to where it really belongs, which is right there. That's much better. Sorry about that. It's just that it occurred to me after I did it, I have it in the wrong place. So now I'm going to select this guy right here, and I'm going to divide it. Okay, now that I've divided it, I can come in and I can zoom in, and I can throw those things away, and I can select this guy right there. Ungroup it, Object, Ungroup. Actually, no, I just have to carefully grab it. There we go. Delete, and then delete this one. Hard to get because they're tiny. There we go. Move it over here. Get the one on the other side. Delete that. And now let's go View, Fit, Artboard, and Window. And I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to start selecting all of my elements of my word painting. I have to select all these individually because they're all grouped up. So I'm going to select all these guys, and I'm almost done. There we go. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to bring it all the way up to the top, very top right corner, hit OK. Boom, there you go. Now let's go View, Fit, All in Window. And there you have the two logos side by side, recreated. And they're a little bit different than each other, but not radically different. I think these are probably a little bit further out than these. But basically, that is how I created that particular piece of work. Now, I have just enough time to do one more, and then tomorrow night I'll come in and I'll primarily be working on the interface. All right, so let's see, how did I make another one? Let's go File, Open, or let's go File, New. That's what I want to do, File, New. And I'm going to hit Create, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Okay, Edit, Undo, Paste. All right, so let me go back to this one here, right here. There, click on that, Edit, Copy. Okay, and then let's go to the new one, and let's go Edit, Paste. There we go, and bring it over to here. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this one here is this. Watch, I'm going to go File, Place. And this one is going to be, go to Departments. Let's click on that, and let's go Place. Boom, there that is. And let's go File, Place. Where are you at? There we go. And let's see, is it on there? I think it's on here. Yeah. Place. There we go. And there's that one. Okay, so with this one, what I'm going to be doing, and let's do one more, File, Place. And let's go up to all the logos and departments, final logos, up, week 3, images, here we go. That's what I want. I want my yard and garden placed there. Click Yard and Garden, there we go. Okay, so I'm putting Yard and Garden in there so that you can see what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I'm going to make the Yard and Garden. Move the Yard and Garden way over here. Okay, we'll just use that as a reference. Okay, so I need two things. I need my little, whatchamacallit right here, my watering pan, and my watering, what do they call those things? Watering pail. So again, go to the Object menu and go to Image Trace, Make. And I get that, which is actually pretty good, okay? I don't think I really even need to mess with that. I think I'm probably just fine with it. Now, and I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to just accept it the way it is. So I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to go to Image Trace, and I'm going to go Expand. And there I have it, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click on that one, and I'm going to drag it and drop it right over there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way. Let me get rid of this. Or let's go Object, Hide, Selection. And let me get the rest of this stuff here. Let me go Object, Lock, Selection. All right. And what I want to do is I just want to get rid of all the rest of this stuff because I don't need it anymore. I think I missed some of the upper stuff. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I don't need any of this anymore. So let's delete that. Let's go Object, Show All. Okay, so that comes back. Now what I need to do is I need to get that right there, okay? So again, it's selected. I'm going to go to Object. I'm going to go to Image Trace. And I'm going to go to Make. And again, that looks real good. I didn't even have to modify this. It's nice and clean. Object, Image Trace, Expand. Boom. And now all I need to do is I can come in here and go, let me select and go Object, Ungroup. Let me see here. Okay, let's try it now. Object. There we go. Object Ungroup. Okay. And I can come in here and I can start deleting things. I don't want any of that. I don't want that. I don't want that guy right there. I only want those leaves. So I'm going to come down here. Just going to get rid of all this other stuff. There we go. And I don't even need that stuff. There, delete. Okay. So what I need to do now is I need to take this sample over here so I can show you what I'm doing. Bring it over like that so you get an idea of what I'm doing. Okay, so there you go. So what I'm doing is I'm going to mirror that look right there. So what I did primarily was I brought this down here, okay, and I didn't use the whole thing. I had only part of it that I was using, this part right there. So I delete that. And I delete that, and now I got the part that I want for this. So just going to move that over to here. Let me group it first. Object Group, perfect. Let me move this way over to here. Then I want this guy right here, and this guy is going to actually go outside and it's going to run pretty much across to the end of that. So I'm going to scale this thing, holding down the shift key to make sure I'm constraining it, and I'm just going to start dragging this over until it reaches like that. Okay, and I don't know why. I think I know what I did. I think actually what I did with this was I distorted it by dragging it up. That's what I did. Yes, I brought it up to right about like that. Yeah, I distorted it. That's how I did it. That's probably good right there. There we go. Okay, so if you take a look at what I have here, all right, I probably need this to be a little bit bigger. It probably needs to be just a little bit bigger. I think probably, whoops, that's way too big. Probably like that's good. Nope, that's too much. Hold on. Got to just get it just about right. And I think that's good right there. That'll probably do it right there. Again, I'm not concerned that it be exactly the same. Now I select this guy here, and this guy's going to move up slightly, and it's going to be made bigger. So I'm going to take that, hold down the shift key, and I'm just going to bring that up until it's about like that. And then I'm just going to move it into proper position. And let's see if I can open this up a little bit so I get a better view of that. Yeah, actually, it just comes over a bit. I think I'm probably pretty close. Might be a little bit bigger. Shift and Alt, I think it's just a bit bigger. I think that's probably good right there. Okay, now here's the thing. I want to get rid of the end of this, and I want to get rid of the end of that. So if I select those two objects, first of all, Object Ungroup. I'm sorry, Object Unlock All. Wait a minute here. Object Unlock All. There we go. Okay. What I want to do is I want to get rid of that part of the handle and that part of the end of the spout. So I'm going to select both the objects, my background color and my pail. And again, I'm going to come over to my Pathfinder tool. I'm going to click on Divide. And what it did, and I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Okay, what it did was it divided this whole thing up. So if I come in here at my Group Selection tool, and if I click on that, or my Direct Selection tool, I'm sorry, Group Selection tool, I was right, hit Delete, that's gone. And if I come over here and click on the end of that and hit Delete, that's gone. So now I got a pail that looks almost exactly the same way that that pail looks like. So all that leaves for me to do is to come in here and click, hold the Shift key down and click, and then I can just make that white, remove, actually Control Z, I clicked too much, hold down the Group Selection tool and select those two objects, make that white, there we go. Remove the stroke, and there is my artwork part of this, perfect. Okay, now all that's left for me to do is the yard and garden. So I do the yard and garden by coming in and typing YARD and then space. Where are you? Where's the ampersand? And GARDE and garden. Yard and garden. And I'm going to select it, change it to stencil standard, bring it over here, situate it right over there, and get my free transform tool, holding down the Shift key to make sure I'm constraining it. I'm just going to stretch it right on across until it hits the other side. And I want it to, again, go off a little tiny bit because that's what they have these do. That's what the logo does. So I want to match the way the logo looks. So it's going to just go off a hair, okay? And it's going to go off a hair that way too. And I think I probably have it, except now it's just got to be moved into position, which would be somewhere, well, let's see. Let me grab the whole thing first of all. Let me bring the whole thing down slightly. Bring it down. Oops, going the wrong way. Go down a little bit. Right about to there is good. Okay, now I can... Yeah, and that size is probably good. Now I just need to bring that up. Bring this up to about here. Oh, I'd say maybe right about there is good. It's probably close enough. Again, it's a little tiny bit different, but you know something? I'm just trying to show you basically how I did it. Once again, I need to do a couple of things. I need to chop those little ends off, and I need to convert this into graphics to do that. So I select it. This is still live text. I'm going to go to the type menu. I'm going to go create outlines, and now I have graphic shapes. So I select both of those two objects, the background object and that type, and I'm going to divide them like that. And then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to zoom in on it so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to get my group selection tool, very carefully come in here, and I'm going to nip off that end right there, come over to the other side, and I'm going to very carefully nip off that end right there. There we go, delete that. And now I'm just going to come in here and select all the type elements. Again, I'm using the group selection tool to do that. And I'll select all of these elements, all of the type elements, okay? When I get them all selected, I'm going to color them white, and I'll have my second logo. And keep going until I get it all done. And a little bit more to go. There, there, and there, and there, and there, and there. Good. And then I just make that white, and I remove the stroke. And I missed one, so I can pick that up and fix that, no problem. So there's that. I'm just going to go in and grab that little hook right there. Oops, I need the group. See, that's why I need the group selection tool, because it's grouped. So I got that. Eyedropper it. Boom. And there, let's go view, fit all in window. And there is my second icon. And as you can see, they basically look the same. I'm going to just quickly review what I'm doing here. Again, I'm basing my designs on the Home Depot logo. I'm building a color scheme that makes sense, which in my case I decided would be white, black, and the orange color. I found graphics that were appropriate, very simple graphics that would be appropriate to create my symbolism. I found a font which turns out to be this font right here, Stencil Standard Bold. I found a font that would be appropriate to match the Home Depot that I decided I was going to use in exactly the same way as much as possible in my symbolism, which means essentially I'm going to be trying to use it in white. I did have to use it in black on one, but I did try to use them in white, and I also tried to make it so that the ends touch or go beyond slightly the edge of the graphic or the symbol, the logo, because that's what their logo does. So I did everything that I could possibly do to make the logo suggest the Home Depot visually. And then, of course, what I did was I played around with little graphic shapes that I found online that I modified into my shape in each case to make a symbol that would make sense for tools. Here I used some tools. I knocked one of them away. I put the word tool in there. The painting, I love the idea of the little dripping paint down here. And what really sells this is that little tiny bit of a lip up top there that I added. Now that's different than anything that's being done, but that's part of the nature of creating symbolism like this, is that you can bend the rules slightly if it comes to your mind to do so. That's the important thing. You have to know when to bend the rules and why you're doing it. That's the kind of important thing I want you to think about. So there are my symbols. Tomorrow, when we come into the class, I'm going to be working on the panels. I'm going to show you how I created the panels. I hope you find this helpful. I really have to tell you, if you have the right mind frame, this can be a real fun project, and I hope you find it that way. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or give me a call. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow night.